doing? This Mike Regan here with another Regan Rant, and I got a email about my last rant about EA and UFC, and it was very well written, and I'm gonna reply to it. I'm gonna read it to you and reply to it on here. Let's see. It's from Antonio, and he is saying, I don't completely agree with you. Now, I do stand on a bias side since I hate EA Sports, but I don't believe EA MMA will do well, and I am hoping it doesn't. It will sell, but I believe most people will rent EA first, and then that rent group will determine how EA MMA sells. Many people did not like analog-controlled striking, and that is in EA MMA. So unless they have perfected it, I see many people disliking the game. I know you can change the button setup so you don't have to use the fight stick, and the best players will use it, and it will give them an advantage. And the general public doesn't want to play a game that puts them at a disadvantage, just because they aren't using a controller scheme that sucks. Also, from what has been said, keeping the default controls in mind, you will also use the stick for strikes on the ground, which is a huge difference for those who play the UFC game. And if the right stick is used for punching, then how do you transition? I have heard moving the left stick and button timing, which to me sounds beyond stupid, but leads me to ask, how do you move on the ground? I like actually scoot the opponent and yourself around on the ground. And UFC, you use the left stick, moving stick, to inch around and move on the ground, like bringing the opponent against the cage on the ground and pinning them there. How would this be done in EA MMA? With the D-pad? Question mark. To me, EA's default button construction doesn't fit an EA MMA game. Not to mention them saying you can do submission anytime as long as you are in the right position and have the stats. To me, that smells like disaster. People said UFC was too dependent on stats. Well, what EA said completely depends on stats, so get ready for people to try a max submission and finish fights in seconds. Until new info is shown, that's my hate rant on EA MMA. Later, Mike. Love Gaming Rain. Hope to see some new SVR 2010 DLC info soon. First of all, I really haven't been following too much on the control scheme. Most of my interest comes from the fighters that they've announced so far that are not in UFC. I'm not against the controlled striking with the analog stick. I didn't really have a problem with it with Fight Night. They've been doing that for a couple years now, and I haven't had a problem with it, to be honest with you. Now, I can see how it may be different on the ground and what the different advantages of doing transitions, but until I've actually played it in my hand, I have it in my dev kit, and I'm actually playing it, I can't comment on one way or the other if it's good or bad. I can say that most of my interest right now, as it stems from that game, is that one, it's competition for UFC. And two, it's something different. There's new fighters that are going to be in the game. They're going to get their first, worldwide exposure in the video game realm from this game. So that's a good thing. Everybody gets money. Everybody gets paid. So with that being said, I mean, I think EA Sports as a brand will help sell that game, and I will stick by that statement from my previous rant. As for SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 DLC, you would think that they would have already made an announcement about that. I mean, sure, they released Stone Cold, but that was almost a given since he was already out there. I mean, you could have gotten him if you pre-ordered. But yeah, nothing, no news on DLC. I mean, every time I send an email to THQ, I ask about him, and nothing. I haven't heard one word, and no comment, or we're not ready to disclose anything at this time. So that leads me to think maybe with the whole Jack's legal lawsuit mess quagmire that they were dealing with, maybe they're holding off on the DLC for 2010, and then when they do announce 2011 at probably SummerSlam this year, they'll have some concrete stuff about DLC. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe if there's a surprise in the store at WrestleMania. Maybe around WrestleMania time they send a pre-list, here's some DLC. But really, I mean, I haven't heard anything. I mean, I haven't gotten any indication that there is even any DLC pending. So who knows? But with that being said, I mean, you're still, you can still download stuff. You step other people's credit wrestlers, but I understand. You want the official DLC. The guys are not in the game, but anyway, that's that story. We have the podcast today, so be sure to listen for that probably tomorrow. probably first thing tomorrow morning. We usually get done recording it pretty late, so I'm pretty tired and pretty out of it for the last couple days. Other than that, that's it. Be sure to check back on the Wrestling Game Database. So we've just added a bunch of movies, like 5 or 10 movies of just King of Colosseum 2. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate your help with that. Also been adding some the commercials for the SmackDown games, the earlier commercials, particularly the SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, I think it is, or no, 2008, 2009 for the Wii, and for the DS version, actually, for SmackDown. So we'll be sure to check that out. I'm also adding a bunch of screens to the SmackDown pages for the PlayStation 2 console. And right now, I think we have, I mean, just for that game series alone, we have a ton of screenshots. So you might want to check them out, especially if you're a fan of the series. There's some good stuff there. All right. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to email me. My email is mike@gamingring.com. And yeah, that's it. All right. Talk to you later, everybody.